This time I have the honor of introducing our next speaker. Like I said before, a lot of things have changed since our last meeting. In February, the night of our annual Lincoln Day dinner, the U.S. Senate voted to approve the stimulus bill. The legislation proved to be as ineffective as it was unpopular. In Pennsylvania, that set into motion a series of events that led Senator Arlen Specter to make a calculated decision to abandon our party with the hopes of salvaging his political career. That is right. Contrary to what he said, he left our party. All in all, I think the situation has taught us an important lesson. We should never compromise our principles and support candidates that clearly don't believe in our party's most basic principles of lower taxes, less government, and fiscal responsibility. And let's face it, Senator Specter abandoned those principles when he chose to support the big government left-wing agenda. Our party in this Commonwealth want to elect a U.S. Senator that will work for the best interests of the people of Pennsylvania, not just someone interested in furthering their own careers. We want to elect a U.S. Senator that believes in limiting the role of government, reducing taxes, restoring fiscal responsibility to the U.S. Capitol. We want to elect a U.S. Senator that will serve as a leading voice against the Democrats' left-wing policies and end our country's support of a socialist agenda. I think our party and our Commonwealth are fortunate to have a candidate running for this office that fits these criteria. Former U.S. Congressman Pat Toomey is a man who has the courage of his convictions to stand up and fight for the principles of our party and this country we're founded upon. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down for a while with Pat, and I tell you that he's incredibly impressive with his agenda. He is exactly the type of leader we need in Washington. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Pat Toomey.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very, very much for that very warm reception. And Chairman, thank you for that very kind introduction. Thanks for giving me a chance to share some thoughts with you tonight. I appreciate the chance that the Chairman has turned over the podium to me despite my obvious shortcomings as a public speaker. I've got to share with you a quick story which will give you an insight to just how challenged I am. Chairman, you'll appreciate this, and you may not invite me to speak again, but we have, my wife Chris and I have two small children, an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old, and when my daughter was in 2nd grade, her class had a program whereby the school invites parents to come in and speak to the assembled 2nd graders and tell them what it is you do for a living. So being the dutiful father that I am, on the appointed day I showed up at my 2nd grade daughter's classroom and I stood up in front of 25 7-year-olds and I explained what I did as the President and CEO of the Club for Growth, a national political advocacy organization dedicated to promoting economic freedom and prosperity through limited government. I thought I'd done pretty well. A little girl walks up to me and she looks up at me and she says, "Mr. Toomey?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I just want you to know, that was the worst speech I ever heard in my life." Now my daughter is standing next to us and she overheard this and she looked up at me and she said, "Daddy, don't listen to a word she says. She just repeats whatever all the other kids are saying." So with that caveat, I do want to share a couple of brief thoughts with you. First of all, thanks again for all you do and for the tremendous reception. Let me say I am crisscrossing the Commonwealth on a very regular basis, as you might imagine. I've seen many of you across the state, and I have to tell you, political environment has changed enormously. It has changed for the better. It's continuing to get better. The energy and the enthusiasm that I'm seeing for Republican candidates, for myself, for others who are running under the Republican banner is tremendous and it's encouraging. And as a result, I am absolutely convinced that those dreary days of dreadful elections are behind us. And we're going to start winning. We're going to start winning this fall. I'm sure of it. We've got, just so that everybody is reminded, we've got an important special election coming up just next week. And we've got an opening. We've got a great candidate. His name is Representative Bob Mensch. And Chris and I happen to live in that Senate district. I was at an event for him just last night. He's a terrific candidate. He's doing well. The state committee is doing a strong effort to help win that. It's vitally important that we send Bob Mensch in as reinforcements to Joe Scarnati and Dominic Pileggi, who are doing a fantastic job, but they need the reinforcements, and we need a win next week in the 24th District. And I've had the privilege to get to know the judicial candidates, and I have to tell you, I'm so impressed and grateful for the chance to campaign with them, to get to know them, and to be able to, without qualification, to vouch for their intelligence, their integrity, the experience. We are blessed to have the slate of candidates we have, and of course, leading this ticket is Joan Ori Melvin. She's going to make a great Supreme Court justice, and we've all got to make sure that that happens. These elections, these judicial elections in particular, are incredibly important in their own right. And that's enough reason for us to do all that we can to help them win. But I will tell you, they are also important for the momentum that they create going into 2010. When we have a big win this November, which I'm convinced we will, it sets the stage, it creates the momentum, it creates the environment, it makes it possible for us to win big races in 2010, like the governor's race, like a U.S. Senate race, like congressional races. This is part of that process. And I will tell you, my campaign is off to a tremendous start. I am so grateful to the many of you who have been so supportive. Let me just share with you, we have already over 5,000 people have volunteered for my campaign. Over 20,000 people have contributed to my campaign. I am the #1 challenger fundraiser in America. I am the only challenger in the country that the National Republican Senate Committee has endorsed. And if you look at the publicly available polling in this race and you average out the last few polls, I'm already ahead of either Arlen Specter or Joe Sestak. And that's a good place to be. With your help, we're going to win this race. And we're going to win this because Pennsylvania voters do not support this liberal lurch to the left. You know what Ronald Reagan, speaking of liberals, you know what Ronald Reagan said about liberals? It's not that they don't know anything, it's just that everything they know is wrong. But Pennsylvania voters know better, and they don't support this liberal agenda. What they do believe in are fundamental Republican ideas, which are American ideas. Belief in limited government and personal freedom, a free enterprise system, traditional values, a strong defense of our nation and our sovereignty. Those ideas are at the core of the American idea. They're Republican ideas, and they are the ideas that are embraced by Pennsylvania voters, and they will be this fall. So we're going to have a terrific win. I hope you have a terrific weekend. Thank you very much for your support.